The future is a dangerous fantasy. We tend to think of the future in a linear way, as if we just listen to the right soothsayer, the right economist, the right futurist, that it will become clear as to what's going to happen. But that's not the way it is, and that's not the way it's going to be. The future is more like a cloud of probabilities and driving into a fog than it is driving along a clear road on a sunny day into a known territory. That was brought home to me very clearly the other day when I was bundling newspapers to put them out for recycling. When I came across the front page of the newspaper from Thursday, August 14th, which was the morning of the blackout, and you read the headlines of that morning, and you get an inkling of how little we anticipated what was going to happen that day, and how much the future caught us by surprise. And that's the way you need to think about the future. Yes, you have expectations of what's going to happen. Yes, you have plans and anticipation of what you're going to do and how you're going to take control of your own future. But the truth is that it's not going to happen the way you think it is. And you need to plan and prepare for a wide variety of things that could happen, as opposed to the one thing that you think is most likely to happen. The next group I want to talk about is the boomers themselves. This age group, again, between 38 and 58 years old, are about to move into, well, let's say edge towards retirement. Now, the baby boomers always change the rules whenever they do anything. For example, in obstetrics, when they were having kids, at the beginning of that period, when the baby boomers were going to have kids, the way you had children was the father sat in the waiting room counting ceiling tiles, and the mother was doped to her eyeballs, and somehow the child was born without either of them being in the room. The boomers changed all that. They said, no. First of all, we want an unmedicated birth. Of course, that was the fathers. And second of all, we want the husband to be in the room when the child is born. And the medical said, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't allow that. So what did the baby boomers do? Well, they handcuffed the father to the mother, so he had to be in the delivery room. Now, of course, you can have the father, and you can have a friend, you can have relatives, you can have a visiting traveling band. You know, it doesn't seem to matter. It's more the merrier. Come on in. But they're doing the same thing with retirement. They are changing the rules on retirement, and they are edging towards the door. You know, they'll work on contract, or they'll work 3 days a week and have long weekends, or they'll work 9 months a year and take January, February, and March and golf. Or they'll start doing some consulting. But largely, they're avoiding cold turkey retirement. But what they are going to do is they're going to start to take more holidays. They're going to start to do more education. They're going to go to Machu Picchu and climb up, and they want to learn about the Indians that live there. They want to do things differently. And that's going to mean that their financial needs change, particularly as the transition from working to retirement is the most dramatic financial change in your life, and it is probably one of the most poorly documented. So here again is a major opportunity for you to ride to the rescue of people who are, and those who should be, your clients, by helping them make that transition from being a wage earner to being dependent on the income generated by their investments. JetBlue is the other example I'd like to talk about. JetBlue, of course, is one of the discount airlines that are reinventing the airline business as we watch. When you phone customer service at JetBlue, you get a real human being. You don't get voicemail hell, unlike some of the main airlines, which we won't mention, but you fly them all and probably you're not very friendly about it. One of the reasons why they are able to do that is because they don't have voicemail. And one of the reasons why the people at the other end, their CSRs, their customer service representatives, are so cheerful is because of the working environment they work in. They're working at home. They may be sitting at home in their pajamas. They get the phone calls over VoIP, over the internet. They sign up for their shifts over the internet. So you have people working at home, signing up for their own hours, working flex time in every time zone across the country, And because JetBlue doesn't have to have a building to house these people and doesn't have to pay for them to, expensive prices for them to work in an expensive place like Boston or New York or Dallas or wherever, and because they work out of their home and they set their own working hours, they're cheerful, what happens is that JetBlue winds up with happier employees who give better service, they have lower staff turnover, and they spend less money to do that than the majors do to do it the traditional way. So they have redefined the process of collecting telephone calls and disseminating information. That's innovation. And that is one of the unintended consequences, one of the ways that VoIP is going to change the way business is conducted. The industry would be well advised to continue devising and policing voluntary controls and safeguards before they are imposed on you by lawmakers who are ignorant of the science but well versed in appeasing public sentiment. You can't afford a major mistake. Remember what happened to the broadcast industry as a result of Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction in the 2004 Super Bowl? I mean, we laugh about it, but I'll tell you, the broadcast industry isn't. Or what about the Sarbanes-Oxley regulations that were brought in because of corporate misgovernment? You cannot afford a major mistake. Innovation has become kind of a corporate religion, and people worship at the shrine. I'd like to talk about what innovation actually is, because not many people really know, or at least not many corporations are willing to consider it. If you think about what innovation really is, in order to innovate, you have to be prepared to do two things that are very unpopular in the corporate world. Number one, you have to do things you're not very good at. And number two, you have to be willing to fail. And if you're not willing to consider those two things, you cannot innovate. By definition, innovation means doing things you're not doing now. And that means doing things you're not very good at. You've got to learn how to become good at them, and hopefully quickly. But if you start out only by doing the things you're good at, you're not innovating, you're just repeating. Like Hollywood trying to produce yet another sequel. The second thing is you've got to be willing to fail. If you're trying something that's never been done before, then you cannot guarantee success. Now, understand me, I'm not saying you should try to fail. That's not at all what I mean. Because you should do the research, you should do the engineering, you should think, you should plan, you should discuss with your clients, you should get feedback, you should have focus. You do all of those things to try and minimize your mistakes. But at the end of the day, you actually have to jump in and try something that you've never done before if you're going to innovate. And if you're not willing to fail, if you're not willing to take the chance on failure, you're not going to go anywhere with innovation. It's not going to happen. If you think about what's happening in the world today with governments, particularly national governments, but not exclusively, governments are, generally speaking, losing their ability to intervene on behalf of their constituents. The powers of government are being parceled out to international organizations like the UN and the WTO, World Trade Organization, to international markets like bond currency and stock markets. I mean, right now, the ultimate arbiter of the financial probity of a government is not their voters, it's the bond markets and the currency markets, which can cause financial havoc with a country that it thinks or they think is not behaving properly. Or by international events like terrorism, like September